In the Western Han Dynasty, there lived a boy named Kuang Heng. His home was a crumbling hut of mud and straw, his family so poor that even a single cup of oil for a lamp was a luxury they could not afford. Yet every night, as the sky turned ink black, Kuang Heng would sit in the darkness, his fingers tracing the invisible strokes of characters he had memorized during the day. Outside, the world slept. Inside, his hunger was not for rice, but for knowledge. He knew that somewhere beyond his ragged clothes and empty bowl lay a life shaped not by birth, but by the mind. And so, with nothing but a burning wish and a chipped stone, he began to carve his future, one tiny hole at a time. Chapter 1: The Wall That Separated Worlds. Next door lived a wealthy family. Their mansion blazed with candles every evening, golden light spilling through paper windows, laughter and chatter floating over the courtyard. To Kuang Heng, that light was both a torment and a promise. He pressed his ear to the cold earthen wall and heard the landlord's son reciting poetry. His heart ached, not with envy, but with a fierce certainty. If they can learn by lamplight, why can't I? That night, he picked up a sharp rock and began to chip at the wall. Dust fell on his shoulders, his fingers bled. But he did not stop. He made a hole no bigger than a copper coin. And then, miraculously, a slender beam of amber light pierced through the darkness. It was faint, barely enough to read a single line. But to Kuang Heng, it was brighter than the sun. He borrowed a scroll from a friend, held it up to that fragile ray, and whispered the words aloud. Night after night, he sat cross-legged, his back straight, his eyes straining, his soul feasting. The hole became his window to a universe that his poverty could not shut. Chapter 2: The Debt of Borrowed Light. But the light was not enough, he needed more books. The landlord laughed at him. A beggar boy reading, what for? Go herd cattle. Kuang Heng bowed and said, Sir, I will work for you without pay, plow your fields, chop your wood, if only you will lend me your library. The landlord, amused by the boy's audacity, agreed. So Kuang Heng labored from dawn to dusk under the scorching sun, his back bent, his hands calloused, yet every evening, exhausted and sore, he would return to his hole in the wall, wash his face with cold water, and read until the neighbor's last candle flickered out. He memorized the book of songs, the analects, the histories of emperors and generals. His mind grew sharper than any plow. His spirit grew taller than any palace. One winter night, the neighbor's oil ran low, and the light dimmed. Kuang Heng did not despair. He took a mirror and angled the faint moonlight onto his page. He learned that light is not given, it is borrowed, reflected, and multiplied by will. His neighbors whispered that he was mad. He smiled and read on. Chapter 3: From a hole to a horizon. Years passed. Kuang Heng's fame spread not because of his rags, but because of his wisdom. Scholars sought him out. Officials tested him with difficult questions. He answered each with such clarity and depth that even the emperor heard of him. He was summoned to the capital, appointed as a tutor to the royal family, and later rose to become one of the most respected ministers of his era. On his first night in the imperial palace, he stood before 100 burning candles and wept. Not for joy, but for the boy he had been, who had only one thin beam of light and an unbreakable dream. He ordered that every school in every village, no matter how poor, be given lamps and books. Let no child, he declared, be left to carve a hole when we can give them a door. Kuang Heng's story is not about a hole in a wall. It is about the light that cannot be walled off, the light of curiosity, discipline, and courage. He proved that a humble birth is but a starting line, not a finish. The hardest conditions often forge the sharpest minds. The darkest nights make us most grateful for the tiniest glow. Today, when you feel trapped by circumstance, too little money, too few opportunities, too many closed doors, remember the boy who chiseled through clay with bloody hands. He did not wait for the world to brighten, he made his own opening, and that opening, however small, was enough to let in a universe. Because the truth is this, the only wall that cannot be pierced is the one we build inside our own hearts. Break it, and then, read, learn, rise. The light is always there, you just have to find your hole, or make one.